it's no surprise that this episode opens with sweeping shots of Area Zero, showcasing its incredible, breathtaking, and expansive beauty. After all, this is one of the most unique locations in the history of Pokemon. At least I think so. It just feels like a place ripped straight out of another dimension, or rather, more fittingly, another time period. Horizons wonderfully sells the mystique of this magnificent location, something Liko and friends can appreciate. They are taken aback by the astounding sights and sounds they experience. Clearly, they are mesmerized and marveled. However, there is something that holds their interest more than the impressive scenery. Paradox Pokémon, the mysterious and majestic Pokémon that can only be found here, who they learned about briefly in the previous episode. They are eager to encounter some, but they are not here to sightsee, of course. They have a mission: find Entei. After reuniting with Briar, who I'm glad we get to see again in the flesh, and being put up to speed by her regarding the elusive legendary Pokemon, their search for the 5th hero begins. However, even with their sights set firmly on Entei as they descend into the depths of Area Zero, they cannot forget about Paradox Pokémon, hence why Dot ends up asking Briar about them. Unfortunately, while she reveals that she has seen some and that they come in ancient and future forms that cannot ostensibly exist in the present, she does not reveal any more about them, which is a shame because I was hoping to learn more about them beyond what we already know from the games. At least she confirms that future Paradox Pokémon, aka the ones from Violet, do exist in the anime, though we have yet to see one. Liko and friends' curiosity is still not satisfied, however. They still wanted to see Paradox Pokémon, with Roy specifically wanting to battle them. Fortunately, or perhaps unfortunately, his wish will soon be granted, since he runs into what he thinks is a Magneton, but is actually a Sandy Shocks who is not too happy to see him, leading to a chase that forces him to separate from the group. Speaking of separating from the group, Coral, who together with Sidian has been following Liko and company in order to keep an eye on them, is so bored that when she sees Roy run past them with Sandy Shocks hot on his trail, she leaves Sidian behind to engage with something that is surely more fun than just watching. Certainly more fun than throwing rocks at crystals, which is what she was doing before. Hilariously making sounds that Liko and friends happily mistake for the cries of a Paradox Pokémon. However, Coral ends up accidentally stumbling upon another Paradox Pokémon, who she thinks is just a Jigglypuff but is in fact a Screamtail. They are instantly at odds with each other due to a mutual dislike for being mocked or looked down upon. A stare down leads to a battle, but before they can begin, another fighter enters the ring, a great Tusk, who is not too happy to see them. A brutal swing from it is avoided by Coral and Glalie, but not by Screamtail, who ends up colliding with a rock and being laughed at by Coral as a result, prompting it to give her a taste of the same medicine, which is hilarious, though understandably not for her. Their bickering is soon interrupted by Great Tusk, who uses Scary Face, lowering their speed so that running away is not such a viable option. Left with no other choice, they decide to fight back. Glalie uses Crunch on one Tusk, inspiring Screamtail to do the same with the other one. Glalie follows up with Blizzard and then with another Crunch, this time to the trunk. Screamtail meanwhile honors its name, though not to good effect. especially because it soon finds itself on the receiving end of another brutal swing and yet more mockery from Coral, with Glalie joining in this time. However, they soon focus on the battle at hand. An ice spinner from Glalie is met with a rollout from Great Tusk. They clash repeatedly, making for a sequence that I very much love. Not only is it intense and well animated, but there's also just something about seeing spinning moves collide that I find so epic, cool, and satisfying. It might be the fact that one of the things I played with and one of the anime I watched growing up was Beyblade. In any case, this is easily one of the best parts of the episode for sure. Especially because they even have a stare down head to head after crashing into each other repeatedly, refusing to back down. While Glalie initially struggles and seems to be outgunned, or I should say outrolled, it manages to get back into the fray spectacularly, and the repeated clashes end without a clear winner. Screamtail meanwhile just watches in awe, likely amazed by the battle that is unfolding before it. This earns it even more ridicule from Coral, who taunts it for seemingly only being good for screaming. Even Glalie pauses mid-battle to mock it, which is funny, especially because of this hilarious troll face-like smile and glance. Fed up with the mockery, Screamtail decides to show off that the one thing it's adept at is plenty good. Unfortunately, this inspires Coral to go for her favorite battle finisher, Self-Destruct, which backfires splendidly, since while Screamtail's all-out scream pushes Glalie forward, Great Tusk pushes back with brutal swing, so everyone is caught in the blast, which is hilarious. When the smoke clears, Coral, Glalie, and Screamtail are all knocked out, with Great Tusk nowhere to be found, though Coral soon reveals that it ran away scared. She praises Screamtail, calling it an Oni pudding, which means Oni Jigglypuff. Oni being a type of demon depicted in Japanese folklore that are often ogre-like, giant in size, massive in strength, and monstrous in appearance. So basically, she's calling Screamtail a demon or ogre Jigglypuff, which is, well, fitting honestly. Oni is also part of Glalie's Japanese name Onigori, since that's what Glalie is partially inspired on. It also resembles a rice ball or onigiri, which is the name Coral went by during the Terrasto debut arc. She also uses the word Oni a lot, often using it to substitute words like totally. So instead of saying totally awesome, she says demonically awesome, which is what she calls Screamtail. This is what leads to Oni pudding. Screamtail soon tries to say something. Coral obviously doesn't speak Screamtail, so she doesn't understand. This angers Screamtail, who decides to live up to its name. To shut it up, Coral hilariously throws a Pokeball at it, which ends in a capture, much to her and Glalie's confusion. Worse still, upon being sent out, Screamtail resumes its uproar, forcing Coral to force it to shut up, just as Sidian arrives to be annoyed by Coral saying that he shouldn't go off on his own, and perplexed by the weird Pokemon that Coral introduces as Oni pudding, who she praises, though this does not stop it from being still angry and unpleasantly loud. So it turns out that I was partially right about this episode. I said Coral could catch Screamtail, and she did, which is absolutely wonderful. They are perfect for each other, since they are both pink, cute, loud, and obnoxious at times, and they both hate being mocked or looked down upon. They were practically made for each other, which makes their meeting and subsequent partnership both fitting and ideal, especially because it didn't just happen suddenly or out of the blue. There was just enough build-up and setup to make the capture feel earned and deserved, even though Coral clearly did not intend to catch Screamtail. Which is hilarious even if it unfortunately reminded me of Go and how most of his captures were pure luck, born from him just randomly tossing Pokeballs, sometimes out of frustration, and somehow ending up capturing something. Though I firmly believe that Coral did more with and for Screamtail than Go did most of the time, with and for the many Pokemon he got. But I digress. Considering that Jesse and James got to catch several Pokemon during their illustrious and long-lasting career, it's only fair that at least one explorer gets to do the same. And thankfully, it was my favorite one. Though I would of course love to see the other ones catch some Pokemon too. But I honestly don't see this happening. At least not with Chelsea, Spinel, Gibeon, or Hamber. But I could see Amedjo and Sidian doing so. In any case, Coral catching Screamtail is something that makes me extremely happy, and it is definitely the highlight of the episode for me. Something I unfortunately cannot say for the other part of the episode. So, Roy and Crocalor are forced into a battle when Sandy Shocks goes from chasing them into attacking them instead with Gyro Ball ? Sandy Shocks follows up with Discharge ? But Crocalor counters with Disarming Voice. Both moves clash and cancel each other out. Crocalor uses Flame Charge next, however while he lands a clean hit, Sandy Shocks is unfazed. If only it retained the steel typing of its descendant. Sandy Shocks retaliates with just a straight up double kick, which sends Crocalor flying. Sadly, we don't get to see the battle fully since the episode soon cuts to the Coral side of things, and when it cuts back, Crocalor is against the ropes, indicating that we missed a tough battle. However, with a flame charge and one heck of a flamethrower, Crocalor turns the tide to emerge victorious. Following their victory, Roy thanks Sandy Shocks for the battle, citing that it was fun. He adds that they should battle again someday. He and Crocalor then walk away while singing, leaving behind an understandably very confused Sandy Shocks, who proceeds to go about its day as usual, though it hilariously dances along to Roy and the Crocalor's song. So I also predicted that maybe Roy would catch Sandy Shocks, but sadly, he didn't, which is why I was only partially right about this episode. It's a massive shame and a wasted opportunity that he didn't, especially since he did battle it and he even defeated it. He had plenty of time and the chance to catch it, but opted not to, taking a page out of Ash's playbook by determining that just getting to battle and befriend Pokemon is good enough. I almost always hated this, and I still do, especially because Roy hasn't captured a Pokemon in a very long time. Like 80 episodes in, he only has 2 Pokemon. That's crazy. By this point, Ash already had a full team in every series. Hopefully Roy will get to catch something soon. Liko and Dot too. At least his encounter with Sandy Shocks leads to the hilarious image of a Magneton with black hair that Liko and Dot imagine when, upon making it back to the group, Roy describes the Pokemon he encountered. This made me laugh a lot. At night, Liko and company find refuge in a cavern where they eat dinner together, with Cap hilariously eating too much. They then settle down to talk, with Fried advising Roy not to wander off on his own again. Briar goes to sleep first, saying that they must save their strength for tomorrow, since their encounter with Entei is close at hand. The episode ends with a blood-chilling scream that terrifies everyone, echoing in the distance. The source, Screamtail. who Briar calls by name, ensuring that its actual name is mentioned in this episode. So overall, this episode was both delightful and disappointing at the same time. On the one hand, we have Coral and Screamtail. Their dynamic is already hilarious, and their interactions throughout the episode were fantastic and entertaining. Their partnership, while accidental, still felt natural and fitting, making the capture feel both earned and deserved. I'm very glad that it happened. It's truly awesome. Or as Coral would say, demonically awesome. Extra points because the battle against Great Tusk, who I was very happy to see by the way since it is one of my favorite Gen 9 Pokemon, was surprisingly intense, despite its short duration and low stakes. Plus, the back and forth between Coral and Screamtail during it added plenty of charm and laughs. On the other hand though, Roy's battle against Sandy Shocks was brief, unspectacular, and we didn't even get to see all of it. Roy not catching it is the final nail on the coffin that ensures that this part of the episode ultimately feels like filler. What saves it is that I do appreciate the comedic moments it offered, the fact that Briar got to share some lore surrounding Area Zero, and that such an amazing location was brought to life beautifully in the anime, complete with a nice sampling of the fascinating Pokemon that inhabit it. Still, despite my mixed feelings, there is no denying that this episode was, all in all, a fun and enjoyable little adventure that was simply a joy to watch. I do, however, wish we got to see more of Area Zero and its many, many mysteries and Pokemon. Now, I'm sure you're eager to check out my reviews of the previous episodes as well, so go ahead and click on the links on screen. Also, if you enjoy what I do and want to help me keep creating content like this, please consider supporting me directly through one of the links in the description below. Thank you so very much for watching, and let's meet again in the next video.